here for the Ninja Accelerator today, and we have a special guest with us. Carma, you want to make an intro?
Sure. So good morning on this gray and chilly day, everybody. We have little Miss Sunshine, Miss Stephanie Szigetvari, who I've known for a while, even before she came to join who we are going to have join us this morning as our special guest. So Stephanie, why don't you kind of give everybody a little bit of a history about you, since not everyone may know you.
Sure. Well, thank you, Carmen. Thanks, Kevin. I want to say that I am joining you actually from New Buffalo, Michigan. So a shout out to all of our Michigan folk. And Kevin, I am wearing a cardigan because I too love cardigan season. So I think we might match, actually. I think we both have great cardigans on today. So anyway, for those who don't know me, I'm Stephanie Szigetvari, and I manage the Arlington Heights office and the Park Ridge offices. So I'm very proud to be a part of all of those agents' lives on a daily basis. And my background, I've actually been in the business a really long time, over 30 years, if I could admit that. And I've been a managing broker now for 13. So that's, I guess, who I am. I'm thrilled to be a part of the Properties family and thrilled to be here today with you.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for joining. I think this is going to be a really good one, especially because as we were talking through the topic, you have so much experience to share and stories and insight. So we're going to get to the video. The video is a little bit longer. It's about, I think, 12 minutes or so. But before we get into it, one caveat is the stats are from a previous year, but the stats or the trends still remain the same. So what I don't want to happen is for us to dismiss what is being said in the video because the stats aren't from 2020. But I think we can all agree, especially as you see what they say and what they're talking about, in that it really hasn't changed. You can feel this out there. So that's number one. Number two is participation. So as we go through the video, please put your thoughts and takeaways into the chat. Those are really important. We'll recap them after the video. But please make sure to put your takeaways into the chat. And then thirdly, we'll see you in about 12 minutes. So thank you, and we're getting started.
Hello and welcome to the Ninja Path. My name is Larry Kendall. I'm the author of Ninja Selling, and our goal is to help you increase your income per hour so that you can have a life. Our focus is on 3 success keys: your mindset, your skill set, and your actions. In this particular session, what we want to do is point out that you're your own competition. Just look in the mirror. That's your competition. The Ninja mindset is one of abundance. We believe that there's an abundance of business, and also we believe and we know that there's very little competition. There are very few on-purpose realtors out there. Most of them are on accident. If you follow the Ninja system, you become on purpose. And if you do the Ninja system, if you act on purpose, you'll set yourself apart. You'll have all the business that you can handle. You'll have an abundance of business. Dr. Wayne Dyer says abundance is not something we acquire, it's something we tune into. So ninjas know how to tune in to the abundance in the market. Let's put some numbers to this to prove the abundance that's available in the real estate market. There's roughly 120 million households in the United States. Of those, about 78 million of them are owner-occupied. The rest are renter-occupied. There's about 6 million home sales each year. About 5.5 million of those are resale, and about 500,000 of them are new construction, for a total of 6 million. Every one of those home sales has 2 parts. There's a buyer side and a seller side. So there's 12 million real estate transactions on average each year. If we divide the 12 million by the 78 million owners, we see that we have a national transaction rate of 15.2%. Now, the transaction rate in your market might be higher, it might be lower. Some of the hotter markets, we're seeing transaction rates well above 20%. If you're in a resort market or a retirement market, it's probably closer to around 10%. But the mindset of a ninja is there are 15 to 20 real estate transactions per year for every 100 owner households who know me. So if I know 100 owner households, there's 15 to 20 transactions waiting for me. That doesn't mean that 15 to 20 of those households will do something in real estate. It means there's 15 to 20 transactions. One owner, one household might sell a house, buy an investment property. That's one household and 3 transactions, but the averages are 15 to 20 transactions. That's the ninja mindset. So we want to focus first on this group, the people who know me, because that's what we call the low-hanging fruit. Those are people who know you, like you, and trust you. In fact, we look at the abundance is in your own backyard. These people are your friends, and they're involved in 15 to 20% real estate transactions this year. So look to them first rather than chasing internet leads or chasing strangers. Here's the challenge. All those friends in your backyard know 12 realtors. So how do you become the realtor of choice? How do you become their realtor? A couple things. You are your only competition. Very few of those other 11 realtors have a flow or follow-up system. Very few of them have a viable database. Most of them are what we call agent-centric rather than customer-centric. And most of them don't have good systems, so they basically tend to wing it. If you will develop your own flow system and follow-up system, and the key to that is having a good database, develop your database, become customer-centric, and become on purpose, you're your only competition. Let's go a little bit deeper on this. Let's start with the first one, which is having good flow and follow-up systems. We have a saying, flow fixes everything. If you're ever in a sales slump, look at your flow. Flow is frequency of interaction, face-to-face, on the phone, text, email, Facebook, social media, snail mail. That is flow. And in your flow, you want to be sending things that position you as the source of real estate knowledge in your market. As we know, there's 2 types of flow. One is what we call live flow, which is face-to-face and voice-to-voice. And we believe you should be in live flow with at least 50 people per week. The other one is auto flow. These are your mailings, your emailings, your social media. And we believe that you need to have 3 touches per month in auto flow, and that needs to be something that's of value to your clientele. One of the keys to doing that is your CRM or your database. One of the reasons most realtors do not have a good flow system or a good follow-up system is because they don't have a CRM. A study of 20,000 realtors showed that 60% of them have nothing. They don't even have a shoebox full of scraps of paper and business cards and sticky notes. They have absolutely nothing. Therefore, they can't run a flow system because they don't have a database. Of those who do, they earn 251% more. Ninjas have been taught how to have a database, how to have a customer relationship management system. So you're on the right path. There really isn't that much competition. You want to make sure that your CRM is mobile friendly, that it has a calendar, and that it's simple and easy to use. If you have those, you're well on your way. This is an interesting study that just came out from Zillow. It was a consumer housing trends report. It was for 2016. It was released in 2017. They studied 13,249 households. They studied buyers, sellers, renters, and owners. And one of the things that struck me out of this study was this. Did your real estate agent contact you after closing? 74% said no. They never heard from their real estate agent again. Now, real estate agents like to talk about building relationships, but quite honestly, they run their business like a series of one-night stands. They have a transaction and then they forget about that buyer. They're off chasing the next transaction. Only 20% receive some sort of occasional contact, and only 6% were on a regular program of hearing from their realtor. Again, you're your only competition. You're your only competition. Look in the mirror. That's your competition. The other realtors are not following up, and part of that is because they don't have a good CRM, and it's confirmed by this Zillow study. If you look at NAR's study of profile of buyers and sellers, we see the same trends. Realtors do a great job. When asked, would you use this realtor again or would you refer them? Sellers said 65% said definitely we would do that. 19% said probably. So 84% were so satisfied that they would definitely or probably use us again or refer us. And yet only 25% actually did. Why? Because the realtors did not stay in touch. We see the same type of patterns with buyers. 88% were very satisfied. Definitely or probably would use their realtor again or refer them. but again, only 12% actually did. Why is that? Well, the Zillow study proves it. 74% of them never stayed in touch ever again, and only 20% occasionally. Only 6% had a consistent follow-up program. If you have a consistent follow-up flow program, you will be the realtor of choice. There is no competition. The number 3 thing that we talked about is being customer-centric. Well, who's customer-centric? Well, you always think of Disney. They're very customer-centric. You think of Amazon. You think of Apple. And hopefully you think of Ninja. One of our 4 core principles is to be customer-centric versus agent-centric. In fact, this graphic of agent-centric comes off the website of a national company that boasts that, at this company, we're agent-centric. Well, we need to act in what's the best interest of the customer. And sometimes that may or may not be in the best interests of the agent. Long term, it will be. If we take care of the customers will take care of us. But we need to focus on the customer rather than being agent-centric. I love this quote from Jeff Bezos. He said, "We see our customers as invited guests to a party, and we are the hosts. It's our job every day to make every important aspect of the customer experience a little better." I love that quote, and I love that philosophy of being customer-centric. When we look at our industry and we say it's not customer-centric, let me give you some specific examples. In a research study on what sellers want, number 1 thing they want is access to active and sold data. The number 2 thing they want is they want a pre-listing packet so they can do some due diligence before it's time for them to sign a listing agreement committing themselves to pay thousands of dollars to a realtor. There was a study of 2,700 realtors throughout the United States, and they were asked this question: do you use a pre-listing packet? You know what the response was? 82% of them said, "What is a pre-listing packet?" The second most important thing to a seller, and we had an 82% failure rate as an industry. We didn't even know the question. Similar response on buyer packets. Buyers, that's the number 2 most important thing they want. Most realtors don't use seller packets or buyer packets. If you do, not only are you very differentiated, but you're very customer-centric. Again, you are what? You're your own competition. Look in the mirror, that's your competition. Let's talk about winging it for a moment. What is winging it? Well, winging it is to do something without proper preparation, to improvise, make it up as you go. And it's a common characteristic of, quote, amateur behavior. We have a lot of hobbyists in our industry. Ninjas are pros. Ninjas are on purpose. Ninjas never wing it. Here's an example of a survey from the National Association of Realtors. They found that 89% of buyers and sellers say the number 1 skill they're looking for in selecting a realtor is negotiation skills. They want a strong negotiator on their behalf. And yet, here's an example of a house that was recently listed in our market in Fort Collins, Colorado. It had 15 offers within 24 hours. 5 of those were loan offers. Now, on a loan offer, what would you expect to receive from the realtor? Well, you'd expect to receive a pre-approval letter. Only 2 of those offers had pre-approval letters attached. We had 10 cash offers. What would you expect as a basic of a cash offer would be a verification of funds. Only 1 of those offers had a verification of funds. Guess which contract was accepted? It was the cash offer with the verification of funds. This is not rocket science. These are basic things, and the 1 offer came from a ninja who understands what it takes to not wing it, what you're going to have to do to be successful in this market. So you're your own competition. Look in the mirror. That's your competition. Work the ninja system, and it will work for you. I love the quote from Robin Sharma. He says, "Life wants you to win. Please get out of your own way." The system works if you work the system. We've shown you the ninja path. Now you need to walk it. Thank you very much for joining us.
All right, we're back. So thanks for all the participation in the chat. There was a ton of stuff in there. There are a ton of takeaways. And hopefully you got them. Let's, Carma, you want to go through some of the key ones that you picked up from the chat?
Yeah, I was busy writing, lots of stuff coming through. So thanks everybody for such great participation and responses. So a couple things, like starting back at the beginning of it, talking about Jules made the comment that abundant is something you tune into, that she really liked that comment, which I also appreciated when I watched this video for the first time. The fact that it's out there, it's all around you. You just have to tune into it and be aware of it. Evelyn made that comment of act on purpose, which is a really important thing. And being on purpose is making your business a real business. Really, this is something we do every day, and we have systems. So that's all about being on purpose. Somebody else, Ayana, said she makes her goals through her network alone, which means you have to have a pretty good network, right? So when we sit and look at what our goals are, you've got to have enough people in your network to generate that kind of those number of transactions, even if you're a lower end of 10 or 12 transactions per 100 people. If your goal is to do 25 transactions a year, you've got to have over 200 people in your sphere that you're in front of regularly. Customer centric, Cindy said, right? It's all about being customer centric, which is what it's all about them. We talked about that either last week or the week before. Then of course, flow fixes everything. Lots of people type that in, which of course, you know, that is the ninja mantra, and it is absolutely correct. So we had a ton of people typing that in. Don't wing it, all about preparation, right? And that's something that we're going to talk about as we go along. One of my favorites, what Erin pointed out, was don't be a one-night stand, because I actually laughed out loud the first time I saw this video about not being a one-night stand, but it's really true. And then, so that leads us into, you know, being consistent. That consistent follow-up is really what it's all about. And I mean, that's what our CRM does for you. And I have to always talk about the CRM because I love the CRM. But our CRM auto prompts you every single day to reach out and stay in front of people. And when you stay in front of people, you are top of mind. And that realtor who did a great job for them 17 years ago hasn't reached out since. They're not going to call that realtor. They're going to call the people that are in front of them at the time that they need your service. So that's something that if you invest just a little time in your CRM and you work it every day, you will grow your business. That's absolutely guaranteed. And then the other one that I love is just Katrina said she needs to get out of her head about doing calls. And I think that led into Robin Sharma's quote, which is life wants you to succeed, just get out of your own way, or whatever that I'm paraphrasing, but the essence of being, you know, get out of your own way. You know what? So you call somebody and the worst thing is they don't answer. So you leave a nice message. You reached out, you got in front of them. There you go. That's kind of the summary of what I took out of that. Anything you guys saw that I missed or that came in while I was talking?
Oh,
You know, actually, I jotted down some notes too when I was watching the video, and I actually had almost all of those as well. Yeah, it's amazing when we think about how much business we have in our own backyard. If we think about that, we're always trying to seek, you know, that new silver bullet, or that, right? And agents get calls all the time from companies trying to sell them lead generation tools, and all along, their business is really in their backyard. They just need to work it.
Yep.
Yeah, I think one of the things too out of this, and Stephanie, that's a great point. One of the things Thad mentioned yesterday about, you know, it was really, you know, investing in the people that already know you. And I know that's a mantra of Ninja, because those are the people that are easiest and least expensive to convert versus lead gen, spending a ton of money. Now, if you don't have a database, you know, to Carma's point, if you don't have enough people in your database because you recently moved or you're antisocial, we got to figure out a way then to build a database and get people in there so you can start forming relationships with them. One other thing that I picked up too, just it came through, Carma mentioned it, but it's really like we have a ton of resources at App Properties. And in fact, we get compliments all the time from Ninja and Ninja companies because we have all these systems set up. And one of the things that we were talking about before, Stephanie brought it up before we went live, is really about taking advantage of the tools that we have. So when they talk about a listing, a pre-listing packet, when they talk about a buyer packet, we have those. We've had them since 2009 or earlier. So those are the things to take advantage of. The CRM has everything they mentioned. It's mobile responsive. It has the outreach calendar, so it reminds you every day, like Carma said. So we have all these tools to help do this. And here's the safety in working with your own database and building these relationships, is that when you saw those stats, nobody else is doing it. There's a lot of market share to grab out there because of the one night stands. And I laughed out loud at that too, LOL. So I know, Stephanie, you had some points you wanted to make about this. So I'd love to hear your thoughts about the video and about some of these topics.
Sure. I think I shared with Carma and you the other day how excited I was in particular to talk about this particular topic because I love branding. And this week, since we're talking about branding this week, I felt that this Ninja Accelerator was a perfect tie-in to all of that. And so I think that it is very relevant to the way that you brand as far as how you're going to create this incredible flow for your business. As you continue to build your brand and create that abundance that we know is sitting in your backyard, more than anything, you have to be authentic about it. So just as you said, Kevin, you and Amy touched on this earlier this week, we have all these great tools, but really the agent needs to put their own individual touch on it, right? To own it, to make it about them. Because you must be you, right? No two people are exactly the same. And that's why you're really not competing against anyone else. You're really just competing against yourself, right? How well you can build that brand, change it up, freshen it up, rebrand, whatever it might be, so that you could be relevant to today's market and still be authentic. People can smell a fraud a mile away, right? We all feel that about ourselves, and so do our consumers. And I feel too that part of branding is being a good storyteller. And let's face it, we're in the business of storytelling. We tell stories about our listings all the time, right? We create that sense of urgency and the excitement about getting that home sold. Well, we have to create that same excitement and urgency as to why people need to work with us. And so when you're a good storyteller, you're going to be able to hopefully allow people to really understand you, understand what you stand for, the type of realtor you are. And also you'll be able to communicate that with them the best customer service, or give them the best customer experience that they're ever going to have. And that's going to be why they're going to choose to work with you. And that's why you're going to have all the business you desire.
Yeah, absolutely. I think going back to the beginning where it says really, and the theme of this whole thing is you are your own competition. The idea with that is truly knowing you don't have any other competition. We were also talking earlier about some threats to real estate that we feel when it comes to either other brokerages or discounting, rebating. I can't name any specifically for fear of legal action. However, as this is being recorded, we know that these companies haven't gained a lot of traction and they're really a non-issue. As long as we do what Stephanie just talked about, which is being ourselves and staying in contact. Everything that was in this video really pertains to that in terms of the amount of abundance that is available and us being able to take advantage of it, us being able to use all of the tools to our advantage. So Stephanie, I wanted to ask you a little bit about when it comes to this topic, you've talked with teams and individuals and how this applies there. What were your thoughts, whether, when you're competing against others?
Sure. And for those of you who know my offices, I do have a lot of teams in the office, and I do get that question all the time, or even when I'm talking to a recruit who might be intimidated about the thought of coming into an office where we have such great market share, which is actually universal to all of our properties, right? In every single office, we have a number of leaders in that particular marketplace, whether they're teams or individual solo agents. So, but I really do believe this in the bottom of my heart. You have the same ability to win that business, to earn that business as anyone else, whether they're on a team or whether you're a solo agent. In fact, I think that in most cases, when you're called for a listing presentation, most of the time you're going because it's coming from your sphere, right? So they already know and like you. And you believe, of course, that was attracted them to actually give you the call and ask you to come and talk to them about listing their home. So I think that the The important thing though is to ask a lot of questions. I think we have a tendency as humans to always assume that we understand what people think or what they're going to want. And they don't necessarily always want to maybe work with a team, or they're not going to want or care about having someone or a group of people who are going to be available 24/7. They might not care if you have 20 years of experience, right? They might not care if you're the number one agent in that marketplace. Our assumption is that, like, just as we said earlier, we talk too much, right? We need to get out of our head about that. And we need to just, and Kevin and Carma, you mentioned we're going to talk about preparation a little bit further on in this call, but that's what this boils down to. It's knowing who you are, being able to communicate it well enough so that the client really understands it, but really know what they want. Because that way you can address those issues. You can then eliminate any fear that they might have if they feel that they might be taking a risk on hiring you.
And, you know, that was something that we talked about yesterday too, Stephanie, the three of us, about asking those questions and listening, that's such an important part of this, because understanding what the client wants and needs, you know, their communication style, their preferred methods of communication, you know, what their past experiences are with realtors, so you understand what they liked, didn't like, wished they had had, et cetera, all those things, even when it's a friend or family member.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of agents, we go into, you know, you've got a friend or a family member and they say, hey, I want to sell my house. And you go over there because you've known them for forever and your kids are friends. And you're like, oh, you know, I'm sure, you know, you go through a little spiel and you don't bring your A game. I always coach agents. It is all, you always bring your A game. It doesn't matter if they're your parent. They need to get the same level of service that everybody else does, which means that you do the same thing for them and you ask the same questions, because you may think you know them, but you have not, if you've not been their realtor before, even if you have, you still need to ask those questions. So I think that was something really important.
Carma, can I just add to that too?
Of course.
I mean, if on average, someone sells their home, and now it's a longer period of time. It used to be like on average 5 years. Now we're looking more towards 7 years. That's a long time. They forgot what that transaction looked like and what the processes were. And our processes have changed, right?
Yep.
And so
Yep.
I think that that's a spot on remark, that you have to remember that even though you know them, you're comfortable with them, or that you feel like they should understand this, they might have forgotten about it and they need a reminder. They need to see exactly how this is going to roll.
Well, and selfishly, these are your very best potential sources of business, your family and friends who like you on a personal level. And if you don't show them how you are as a professional, you're going to lose out. Like, the more you wow those people that are the closest to you, that it's going to compound the number of referrals they're going to give you. They're never even going to question what your process might be. So that's the selfish side of it. But, you know, obviously, firstly, we're giving top-notch service to everyone, including our family and friends. Any other thoughts, Kevin, before we go into kind of preparate the 3 Ps we talked about?
Pro tips? Yes. So I think I think one thing to that point, just to bounce off of what both of you just said, is a couple of things based on the amount of time. And it's different in different markets. In the city, people move a little bit more frequently. In the suburbs, they move less frequently. But either way, just think about that. If you had a closing 4 years ago and you haven't talked with them in 4 years, that's a problem. You know, what are the odds they're going to reach out to you? We saw the stats. Number 2 with that is then sometimes we rely, and we saw this in the chat, we rely on the auto flow only, meaning postcards, emails. But the problem with that is a lot of times what's coming through on that, it's necessary. Let me just point that out. That's necessary because you cannot touch 200 people 3 times a month. It's impossible. So you have to consistently remind them of your name, your face at properties, and that you're out there. But if we rely on that only, we're missing the relationship part. And so a lot of times, you know, we say we're sending out stats. We send out the market report to our database. Well, if they're not moving for another 3 years, how interested are they in the stats? Probably not much. But if you call them, if you reach out to them, hey, how's the family? How are things going? How's school? How's work been with everything that's been going on for the last 9 months? Now you've got a connection. Now there's relevancy to what you're doing. So it's, I just want to make that point because someone, you know, said that they're really good at the auto flow, but they haven't really taken advantage of fostering personal relationships through phone calls and one-to-one interaction. So there's that. And then lastly, in terms of, well, actually, Carma, you do it. Let's go into the pro tips.
Well, wait, Kevin, can I just have a few more points on what you were talking about? Years ago, I read a statement and I loved it. And it was that we have to maybe have a paradigm shift and stop calling those names that we have in our CRM contacts, because they're not contacts, they're relationships. So your CRM might have 200 relationships in there, not contacts, not leads, right? So we have to remember, right, that is the foundation. And if you apply that, I guess, into your dialogue or your mindset, you're going to realize how important it is to stay in contact with them. And then it becomes a little less scary, right? Because you're not calling them necessarily for the lead, right? You're calling them just to continue on the relationship. The other thing that I always bring up at this time of the year, if you are not contacting your client, someone else is. And especially during the holiday season. And especially, I think, during this holiday season, because it's going to look very different. There's going to be less travel. There's going to be less family, less gatherings. There's going to be more downtime for your clients. So I think we all did a really great job at the beginning of quarantine to contact our clients to see how they were doing, how they were handling everything. But then things opened up and people got busy, and maybe we've kind of fell off of that track. But now is going to be the perfect time to do it. And with what Larry said, we know that most agents don't keep in contact with their clients. But the holiday season is usually the time, if they're going to do it, they might go ahead and send out that holiday card or drop a little gift, right? So again, this time of the year, perfect time, make sure you're in front of your clients, because if you're not, you can bet somebody else is.
That's right.
I love that. Real quick, your CRM, I love that. It's either a list of relationships or broken relationships. Right. So I love that, because when you change that mindset or that perspective, when you look at the names, you're like, just think about how close are you to that? When's the last time you talked or fostered that relationship?
Right.
I love that.
Maybe suspended relationships, because then we can bring them back. Okay, so pro tips for today. So we're going to go with 3 Ps. We're going to talk about preparation, practice, and performance. So I'm going to take preparation, and one thing that I encourage everyone to have is a written marketing plan. Anybody that has worked with me ever knows that I'm big on having a written marketing plan, because the bottom line is, if you talk about it at a listing presentation, they don't remember everything you're saying. They don't even always know what all of it means. They can't possibly remember, if you started talking timeline with them, when all of these things were going to happen. And importantly, most of the agents who are going to compete with you are not going to have it written down. Everybody talks and they tell the potential client what they're going to do, but they don't have it written down. And when we lay it out for the client, number one, it gives us a talking point to go through for the listing presentation. Number two, it's a leave behind. Then they can look at it again to remember what you said and what you were going to do. And then if they're going to ask the other agents that they might be interviewing, are you going to do these things? So even if you don't get the listing, at least you're costing somebody else some money. But the other thing is that you're also you lay that out for them. You now have a plan for yourself. That's like your checklist for what you're going to do for every listing. It includes social media, it includes e-blasts, it includes postcards, it includes any print ad if you're going to do that. All those things where you can demonstrate your value, because they don't know what we do and they don't know what you do all day to promote their listing. So having that there in writing is really critical in my mind. So that's my pro tip for preparation.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that goes along with the pre-listing packet and the buyer packet that Larry talked about. The second P in the pro tips is practice. And we talk about this a lot. You know, he mentioned don't wing it. I think as we talk about the marketing plan that Carma, said is written down, and as we talked about working with friends and family, and sometimes we just go in and like softball it. If we're not, and to Stephanie's point about people can smell BS, you can't go in and wing it and expect someone to feel confident. So in terms of practice, really treat this like you would treat a sport, or musical instrument, or anything else. How do you improve? It's through practicing. And if you're practicing in front of clients, if you're practicing in front of these relationships, you are going to blow it. So practice is really key. And when we say practice, what that means is practice your dialogues. How do you communicate the pre-listing packet to somebody? How do you communicate your process to somebody clearly? How do you communicate your marketing plan for their property to them? Practice it. Don't just go in with a new sheet you typed up with a list of 20 things. Practice it with a colleague. Practice it with someone at home, whoever it might be. But the key is don't wing it. Be on purpose in terms of continuing to improve, and you'll see that you're able to communicate clearly and concisely how you are going to create success for them, which leads to confidence, and they're going to more likely list with you than anybody else.
Okay, and I have the final P, which is performance, although we touched on this a little bit earlier today, but you have to perform at your highest level every single time. I can't tell you how many people have said to me, oh, I'm going to get this, they love me, or it's my cousin, or it's my sorority sister, or whatever, right? And then they come back and they go, they didn't hire me. And, they're surprised. And I think most of the time that happens because, again, we're so comfortable with that relationship that we don't realize, first of all, they deserve. They're going to be, there's the friendship and then there's the client relationship. And they deserve to have 100% of whatever it is that you're going to give. The same thing you would give any other stranger or any random person that you were going to, go to and do a market for. So please show up with your game face on. Something that we've been talking about too is if they haven't sold in a while, your plan has probably changed. If your plan has not changed since the last time you met with them 5 or 7 years ago, then I think that's a different story. Then we have to talk about that in a different episode. But just make sure that it's relevant to today's market, and it's going to. You have to show them your success plan, how you're going to successfully get them from beginning to end. You know what? They deserve it. Something that Carma brought up was they're your raving fans. They're probably categorized as your A people in your CRM, your A relationships in your CRM. And they're your raving fans. If they don't have a great experience or they felt that they were that they were shorted somehow, they're not going to refer you. And those A clients or A relationships, of course, are the ones that are most important to creating that abundance in your backyard for you.
That's great. I'm going to touch on one more thing before we wrap. I know we're over time a little bit, but one of the things that you just said that actually both of you have mentioned is about friends and family. And so, whether it's just going in or someone you feel close to, anybody that you just think if you worked with them before that they of course are going to work with you and hire you again. Here's the problem on both sides. One is if you go in and you wing it, the problem is someone else is likely not winging it. Someone else is bringing their A game. And as you both said, they're not going to choose you. The second problem is if they do choose you and they are friends and family and you haven't laid out your plan, your process, how you're going to create success for them, they know you as a friend or a family member. They don't know you as a successful agent. And those people are going to constantly question what you are doing to sell their home because you haven't laid out what you are going to do for them. If you haven't treated them like you would any other client, they don't know what you're doing. In personal experience, one of my first clients, I blew it this way. One of my first clients was a friend and I winged it. I was like, of course you'll hire me. And he did. But it was a problem. It was a problem because he was consistently pinging me. Why don't we do this? Why don't we do this? Because I had never laid out what we were actually doing. I'd never talked through how we were going to create success. And he was always second guessing me. And then we ended up not talking for a year after he closed. Drama in any case. But it's key. So, to both of you, any final thoughts before we wrap up?
I have one last comment, which is we called these pro tips because you're always a professional. And that's what you need to demonstrate every single time that you work with any prospective client or a client. You are a professional. So you always have to look like a professional, no matter what the relationship is. That was my closing comment.
And I would just say those relationships you have in your CRM, make sure you treasure them and you nurture them. And if you do that, then you're never going to be out of business.
Great advice.
Right.
Thank you everyone for joining us. Really hope you have a wonderful Thursday. This packet is in the It's All About Love post on the Agent app, and the recording will be up later. So this packet, if you want to download it, go to the Agent app, go to Featured on the left side menu, and it's the first post there, the It's All About Love, and all of the videos from the series are there, including all the packets. So
They are.
yes. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Well, thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Carma. I enjoyed my time today.